All right, welcome back. So we just finished reading the introduction by E.D. Hirsch for King Arthur and the Round Table. And now let's read the prologue. So this is that backstory I was telling you about. So it's the time before King Arthur was even born, so that you have kind of an understanding of what happened leading up to him. So Merlin, the wizard, caused Arthur to be king of Britain. No one else knew that Arthur was a prince and that he had been given to Merlin to be watched over in secret and brought to the throne. Merlin's boyhood is as hidden as Arthur's. Before Arthur was king, his father Uther reigned, and before Uther came Vortigern. During the reign of Vortigern, Merlin first appears as a 9-year-old boy. So we're going all the way back to when Merlin was 9 years old to lead up to how King Arthur comes to be. In Merlin's youth, the island of England, Scotland, and Wales was called by two names, Logres or Britain. The Romans called it Britain from the name of a tribe of people living in it, but Logres was the name that its own people used. From the beginning, it was an island of marvels, with its mysterious temple of Stonehenge, its white-robed druids, its gold, and its pearls. The stormy seas that bent its coast prevented traders from reaching the island easily and added to its mystery. So Stonehenge is a prehistoric circle of stones in Salisbury, England, used by ancient people for religious ceremonies. And the Druids were Celtic priests and wizards. So Druids used a lot of magic. In the 1st century, after the birth of Christ, so we're talking about the Christian faith, the Romans conquered Britain and added it to their empire. They brought peace to the island, built roads and towns, and taught the people how to obey the laws and live peacefully together. Among the Roman soldiers were some who had been told about Jesus Christ, and they spread Christianity to the people in Britain. So 400 years went by. Britain prospered, but Rome weakened. Her armies had to be drawn back nearer to Rome itself, and by the year 410, the last of the soldiers left the island. By this time, a great many of the British people were Christian. They had built churches and decorated them with beautiful work in gold and silver. Tales of these riches reached the people living along the coast of Europe, where nobody was Christian. These heathen men, as they called them, were brave but savage and greedy, and they worshipped gods who they believed demanded that men should fight and kill each other. This belief, combined with their greed for the beautiful things in the Christian churches, urged them to raid the coast of Britain as soon as the Roman troops were gone. The ending of winter storms was a signal for raiders from all over Denmark and North Germany to cross the narrow seas and to burn and rob the villages of eastern and southern Britain. So guys, this is what we're talking about in history. It's this time period that we talk about in history. So you're going to be reading about it in King Arthur and learning about it in history as well. Heathens were people who did not believe in the God of the Christian Bible. So came the dark days for Britain. Churches were robbed, priests and other people were killed or taken as slaves. British chiefs resisted, but some were traitors who made peace with the invaders in order to oppress the people themselves. Men spoke of the days when Britain was peaceful and united under one rule. They longed for a good king who would bring back peace, order, and justice. Christianity was in danger too, for few priests or hermits were left alive to even teach the people. And we know from reading Robin Hood that a hermit is someone who lives alone and apart, often for religious reasons. At last, one British lord named Constantine set up a little kingdom of peace and order in the southwest. People believed that he was the king they longed for. He had 3 sons. So Constantine had 3 sons: Constance, Aurelius, and Uther. But when he died, so when Constantine died, a Welsh lord named Vortigern arranged the murder of young Constance, the heir. So Constance was the oldest and was supposed to take over the throne. So then Vortigern makes himself the king of Britain. Vortigern was one of those lords who made friends with the Saxons. So these Saxons were the invaders that we're talking about that would raid and sack the island of England, Wales, and Scotland. But he was soon to know the treachery of the invaders. One of his old allies, the Saxon named Hengist, came into southern Britain with a great army, and a feast was held at Stonehenge. The British lords sat down, unarmed, thinking all were friends. But the Saxons hid daggers under their cloaks, and at a signal from Hengist, they fell upon the British while a toast was being drunk, and they killed almost every man. Certainly not an act of chivalry, right? Well, Vortigern was taken prisoner, and to save his life, he gave away his lands and his villages to the enemy instead of defending them to the death. So he wasn't very brave in that case. Okay, and again, the Saxons were the tribes of invaders from northern Germany that came in and sacked them. Then Vortigern escaped from the enemy camp, and he fled westwards toward his own land of Wales. He snatched what sleep he could by day, so he slept during the day, and he ran by night, until at last he found safety in a cave in the Welsh mountains. There the British began to gather around him to resist the hated Saxons who were slaying people and burning buildings all over southern Britain. So these British know that Vortigern is in there hiding, and they're surrounding, and they're going to work together to resist these awful, terrible Saxon invaders. Now, the first need was for a fortress. A wise man advised Vortigern to build his castle on the Mount of Rear, and so he went there with his followers. First, they dug a mighty moat all around the site. Working with desperate haste, they dug, cut down trees, measured and marked out where they were to build, mixed lime, and collected stones. Finally, they were ready to begin to build the wall above the moat. Each day, part of the great wall was built, but each night it fell to the ground. In the morning, they raised it once more, and in the night, again the stones fell, yet no man had harmed the wall. Thus they labored for a week, growing more and more afraid at the news, as news came that Hengist was coming near. Excuse me. Then Vortigern sent for all the Welsh wizards and commanded them to tell him why the wall fell every night. One wizard, Jerome by name, said that if a boy who had no father could be found, and if his heart's blood were mixed with the lime of the wall, then it would stand until the end of time. So he made a prophecy about something that was to happen in the future if he were to find a boy that did not have a father. And that if they took his blood and mixed it with this lime, okay, the lime was used to help the stones hold together. Then, if they mixed his blood, then it would stand until the end of time. Now, the saying was strange and it was mysterious, but the king obeyed it. He sent messengers all over Wales to search for a boy who had no father. Well, two of the messengers went to Carmarthen, and outside the town wall found a broad meadow where boys were playing. The king's men were tired, so they sat down in the shade of a tree to rest, idly watching the boys. A quarrel, remember your spelling word? A quarrel sprang up, and two boys had a fight, one soon getting the better of the other. The lad who had been beaten ran off, shouting taunts as he ran. "You'll pay for this, nobody's son. I am the son of a chief. You ought to be a slave. Who is your father? You never had one." Now the king's men, startled by the cries, "Nobody's son," asked what the uproar was all about. They were told that the boy's name was Merlin. He was a slim, strong boy about 9 years old with black hair and light gray eyes. The men took him to one of the elders in the town. Eli, who said that it was true that Merlin was said to have no father and that his mother had become a nun. When the king's messengers had explained their business, Eli brought the mother and her son to the king's mountain stronghold. The mother told Vortigern that she was the daughter of a Welsh chieftain, Conan. When she was 15, she began to fall into trances and to see strange things, strange visions. And in these visions, she came to know a tall knight clad in gold. Time after time, he came to her. She knew neither his name nor where he came from, whether from God or from the devil. Then he stopped coming, and the visions stopped also. And afterwards, Merlin was born. Alas, I do not know any more about how he came into the world. Megan, one of the king's wizards, told the king that the gold-clad knight was one of the creatures who live in the sky, neither an angel nor a man. They loved to play tricks on people. One had taken the form of a handsome knight and deceived Conan's daughter. Merlin wanted to know why his history was being talked about, so the king told him the story of the falling wall and Joram's strange saying, which would mean the boy's death. Merlin looked slowly around the group of magicians standing before the king in their magic robes and horned headdresses. He looked at the ring of warriors with their spears who guarded every way, and he was not afraid. He spoke out to the king. "Your wise men deceive you," he cried. "I will tell you the truth about the wall and prove to you that they are lying. If I make the wall stand, give me their heads." Now this challenge was agreed to, and then Merlin cried, "Tell me, Joram, what shall men find at the bottom of the wall?" Joram did not know. "King, keep your promise," Merlin cried again. "Dig the moat 7 feet deeper. You will find a well-cut stone." They dug and found the stone. Merlin cried again, "King, keep your promise. Tell me, Joram, what is under this stone?" Joram was silent. He could not tell. So Merlin answered for him, "There is water under here. Take away the stone, and you will find water." And so they did. And again he challenged Joram, demanding that he tell them what lived at the bottom of the water. And still Joram did not know. Merlin spoke, "King, keep your promise. Drain the water. Below live 2 dragons. One is milk white and the other blood red. At midnight they begin to fight, and the earth shakes, and so your wall falls. You do not need my blood to build with." Well, all happened as Merlin foretold. When the moat was drained, out came 2 dragons, white and red. They sprang on each other and fought, but neither could kill the other. At last both dragons retreated into their holes and were never seen again. The king turned to Joram and his 7 magicians and ordered that their heads be cut off. Merlin now became the king's advisor. He warned him that soon young Uther would land in Devon, and try as he might, Vortigern would never escape him. Then Uther would be Pendragon and bring peace at last to Britain. So what it's saying, Vortigern is not the natural born king, like he's not the rightful heir to that throne, but Vortigern has taken the throne. Uther is the rightful heir to the throne. Remember, his older brother Constance was killed, but Uther lived on, but he was too young, and now he's coming back to fight and take over his throne and become Pendragon, which is king. Then Merlin made his great prophecy. So he's foretelling something about the future. Uther shall have 1 son, a man named Arthur, who will destroy all traitors. He will be the bravest man alive and the most noble in thought. All his foes he will strike to the ground. All I have told will become true. Well, it all happened as Merlin foresaw. Uther landed and pursued Vortigern, who ran to a castle near the river Wye. Uther filled its moat with branches of trees, set fire to them, and burned down the castle and Vortigern with it. Then Uther was king, and thus the destinies of Merlin and Arthur began to be fulfilled. And we're going to stop there because tomorrow we will begin part 1, the founding of the Round Table.